Hello and welcome back to the Boropolis podcast. As always, I am joined by Nathan. And well, what a week, really. 1,000 subscribers has been hit. We'd aimed to do it by Christmas, and it was done in one night pretty much. And then Boro turned up on Friday night live on the box and produced, without question, the best performance of the season. It was a sight to behold, Nathan, really, wasn't it? I mean, yeah, we'll talk about the football in a little bit, but I did just want to touch on the 1,000 subscribers and just say I've mentioned it. Usually, I always forget and say at the end of the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe if you're watching and you haven't already. And I just thought we're getting closer and closer. Whacked it up on Twitter during the week, and then all of a sudden it was just like boom, 400 extra subscribers or whatever it was to hit that 1,000. And yeah, I'm just really, really delighted, especially this season. I know we've both noticed that there has definitely been a significant increase upon listeners and viewers of the podcast, not just the last couple of weeks, but just this season in general. So we really do appreciate all of your support. And obviously, a lot of time and effort goes into it. So it's sometimes, as much as we always say this is just two Middlesbrough fans having a chat, and me and Nathan would do it regardless of if 10 people were listening. It is nice to think that the kind of effort and hours that go into it are, being noticed, I guess. So Nathan, I'll let you go ahead and do a bit of the waffly stuff before we actually start talking about football.
Yeah, it's been a really good week, hasn't it? First of all, as you say, 1,000 subscribers is really, really good, really important to us, as you say. And yeah, thanks to everyone on the Twitter for jumping on that and getting us over the 1,000 mark, which is really, really nice, really pleasing, and leading us in nicely to Friday. And we spoke about last week that a Friday night game is very much make or break for a weekend. And if you get beat, it's terrible and it almost ruins your weekend. It puts a dampener on it. But if you win, then it's absolutely incredible and it sets you up for a really, really good weekend. And if you do it in the style that Borough did this Friday in Hull, a wet and rainy night at the MKM, and you just simply obliterate Hull live on the box, that was some first half performance and some way to win a game. Really, really impressive and just sets you up really, really nicely for the weekend and bounces you into the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. What I should say is actually there was a comment on the podcast, and this is the last thing before I do move on. On our last episode, just saying, lads, love the podcast. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but I did reply to the comment and just say thanks for the support because this certain account does comment quite a lot and said, love the podcast. Could you try and get it up earlier? And in all honesty, I said, yeah, we're going to start trying to do so. And then I didn't realize Nathan was enjoying himself in Belgium on Friday and Saturday. So we would have recorded yesterday. But yeah, as I say, look, we've life, work, me being a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to editing. I mean, half of the time I'm probably editing things out that no one would even notice anyway. But yeah, it is something that we try to do. And I think just obviously sometimes life gets in the way and it's busy and things are going on for both of us. So we will try to get it up as kind of quickly as possible. I know it's usually a Monday night, and especially with a festive fixture list, it's a bit of a weird one because there's games every couple of days, really, and it becomes old quite quickly. However, that's enough waffle. And I want to talk about that performance on Friday. Team selection wise, I would say in terms of flicking on my phone at, I can't even think what time the team will have come out with the hour and 45 now. But anyway, in terms of opening up my phone after getting the Middlesbrough notification on Twitter and seeing the graphic with Alex Gilbert on there is probably one of the most shocking moments I can think of in the last 5 or 6 seasons. Genuinely, when we talk about the term forgotten man, I think what odds would you have got on Alex Gilbert just randomly starting for Middlesbrough on Friday night?
Yeah, really strange. And as you say, your reaction was just of shock. And well, I think you were very, very disgusted at the team sheet from your reaction to to me and you having a conversation about it on Friday night, saying how on earth is this the situation that we're in where Brown's out, Morris is out, Kante's out. We've only got one central midfielder. You look at the team and you see McGree there and you think, right, okay, we saw McGree playing central midfield alongside Hackney for a period of the Derby game last week. So that must mean that Gilbert's playing in attacking midfield. And then all of a sudden the game kicks off and you see Gilbert picking up the ball just in front of the centre halves playing as a six. Like that is one of the maddest things I think I've seen. Obviously, as you say, I was away in Belgium on Friday night, but watched the game on my phone and seeing him pick the ball off Matt Targett and Alfie Jones, I just thought this is mental, but I'm sort of intrigued to see what's going to go on here. But yeah, Gilbert into the team was obviously the main shock, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think obviously we'll get onto Gilbert's performance and we'll talk about kind of just the shock factor of that first 45 minutes. But I think we all thought, judging off the team and judging off the performance last Saturday, I think I described it in the last podcast, the first half last week as one of Boro's poorer performances or 45 minutes all season, really. But I think we were probably a little bit shocked at how much Kim Hellberg changed in terms of even just the team selection and the shape. Obviously, he said repeatedly, I don't want to come and kind of tear everything up. And last week, he put Bangura in after however many months out. He puts Riley McGree on in front of the back four. And there's a few changes where you think, okay, that's quite brave. But in terms of the style, there was certain little things. And in fairness, we all thought, well, he can pick a team and he can pick a shape, but really patterns of play, the way that Boro try and play through the thirds, just the way that they attack, the way that they defend, the positions of certain players and I guess distances between players as well. That's something that couldn't have really kind of changed almost overnight in terms of the Derby game. In terms of a week on the grass, you expect, I guess, more or I guess more visual signs of changes and things that they've been working on, but the actual extent of what they've clearly been working on and what was clear to see in the space of a week was frightening, really, because in terms of the rotations, in terms of the patterns of play, in terms of just the way that we attacked in general, and the first goal was an absolute perfect example of this. It all just looked so engineered and the absolute blueprint of probably something that they've been working on all week.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Boro playing out from the back and playing it left towards Bangura. McGree sort of running up the line to drag away a Hull player, leaving space in midfield for Hackney. The ball's played into the middle of the pitch. Hackney drives forward, continues to drive. McGree continues his run, plays him on in behind, and gives us a chance to cross the ball, fill in the box with bodies with Strelec, Conway, and Whitaker all getting into the box. And yeah, the delivery. Look, it's sort of fortunate the way it lands for us a little bit with Whitaker and a Hull defender sort of colliding with each other, and the ball obviously lands at the feet of David Strelec. And to be fair, he does really well to react, get his first touch out of his feet, and just almost sort of scoop the ball into that top corner. And do you want to know what? I'm really pleased for him to come back into the team. As we said, build some confidence. That'll definitely help. Yeah, it's a good finish as well, to be fair to him, and gets us off up and running away from home in a game where, look, we spoke last week about Hull, and I mentioned that they had conceded the second most goals in the division. As much as we're going to praise Boro's attacking performance and getting in attacking positions and in areas where we can get shots off, we were just clinical on the night and obviously put them to the sword, but they played into our hands as well a little bit. They were aggressive in the press, and to be fair, they also tried to play out from the back a couple of times and they just weren't good enough. And in the end, punished for that by players that we've got that have got attacking quality and the ability to put you to the sword.
Yeah, which makes it even funnier the fact that we played like Tony Pulis's Stoke City for the first 15 games of the season. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not being smart in kind of the aftermath. It got to where we are. We're just, I guess, building from a position of strength would be the best way to put it. But yeah, First goal is obviously engineered and wonderfully done. The second goal, like you say, is probably more so. I mean, it's well worked, and I think special praise for Tommy Conway for this one because I know obviously there's the conversation about his goal scoring at the moment, but I thought he actually played really, really well on Friday night. I thought his link up, I thought having a partner with Strelets beside him really helped him, really sort of neatly linked up with him, linked up with McGree, linked up with Whitaker. It's initially, I think it's a Jai that tries to clear one here, and basically it goes straight back to Boro. Conway then kind of wriggles into the box and then just lays it off for the on-rushing Alex Gilbert or Frank Lampard. I think I've seen comparisons too. It was the most visually pleasing goal, and I think for the first goal, do you know what? I didn't actually celebrate because I was adamant he was offside, and it was just the whole player playing Strelets on. Like it was one of them where I was just waiting for the flag to go up. The second one, I think I was in that much complete shock and pandemonium. It sat in my living room that I just shrieked. It was honestly a ridiculous noise, to be honest. I'd hate to hear it back, but it was kind of the oh my god, he's actually just rattled one in off the post, just absolute daisy cutter on them wet on the wet surface. It was just an absolute thing of beauty. And what's even more impressive with this one is he doesn't actually strike it with his laces. It's almost his instep. He kind of passes it in to the corner at such pace. Pander is completely beaten, and then perfect conditions for a knee slide. And I mean, if we're going to talk about Alex Gilbert and the goal, we might as well talk about his whole performance now because for someone that has never played in that role, who we have always seen as more of a attacker, a number 10, sometimes kind of drifting in from a wide position, to someone that I think in his BBC T's interview after the game, he said that he previously played actually as a striker in his youth team days, to just play a completely different role. I think it was something like out of his duels in the game, he won 9 out of 12. It was like 87% passing accuracy. And what impressed me most was also his range of passing. I mean, obviously the goal is incredible in itself, but he won headers, he won ground duels, he never ever looked like the ball was a hot potato and he was panicking. He was dropping in between the centre halves and picking up the ball. It was like he'd played there all his life. It was genuinely, in terms of it almost felt like a second debut given the circumstances. But in terms of someone playing in a role where you go, why? What's he doing there? I can't think of a Borough performance whilst I've been a Borough fan where I've thought you don't belong there, but you are playing just exceptionally well.
Yeah, he was really, really good. And do you want to know what? Fair play to him because it takes a lot of sort of mental strength to probably be in a team where you haven't got a look in for the first 5 months of this season, being an unused sub on the bench for a handful of games, but haven't been getting in the match day squad for most of them. Sort of on the scrap heap, really, at the football club. And before this game, if you'd have asked anyone about a handful of players, he'd have been on the list for January for outgoings. And he's put in a performance on Friday night, which you think, right, okay, well, you've played that well in a position that you're not comfortable in. So you probably gave the manager a massive headache as to, okay, well, we've got games coming up and we've got Morris and Brown and, to be fair, Kante as well coming back into the squad. But Alex Gilbert's just put his hat into the ring to play in a midfield too. But he can also play attacking midfield. He can play off the side, as you say. And yeah, do you want to know what? Fair play to him. Really, really pleased. And he certainly gave Kim Hellberg a headache, as we say.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it wasn't just the sort of passing range that impressed me. It was both sides of the game, and I thought it was something that him especially, but Borough did really well. And when we're talking about the way that Hull played, the way that Borough played, they were quite aggressive in their press, but Borough were just as, if not more aggressive. I think when Kim Hellberg first kind of spoke about the way that he wanted his team to play, it's probably just being scarred from you know who, but he spoke about wanting to win the ball high up the pitch, be aggressive, be on the front foot, and it's kind of one of them where every single manager says it, but until you actually see it in practice, it's just like empty words. Friday night showed me that absolutely he is a man of his word, because what we saw, and the third goal, it's Gilbert winning the ball back. I know Hull have got complaints in terms of it being a foul, but that's what it's from: getting in there, being aggressive, nicking the ball, and then just springing on them and flying forward. I describe Coventry as the sky blue arrows. This was the Masham arrows on Friday night, because they were flying forward and it was just relentless at times. It was one of them where, I mean, I didn't feel sorry for the Hull players, but I bet they were thinking, oh my God, please can we just get in at half time? Because it felt like the best comparison I can give, and the kind of biggest bit of credit I could give them, is Boro looked as dangerous as what Coventry did at times when we played them. And in the first half, they just, you're thinking like, where have all of these players come from? There's like 4 or 5 bodies at once, like getting in and around the box, or potentially even in the box, and attacking with such speed. And it was just marvellous to watch. And as I say, the third goal, obviously, Gilbert wins it, strides forward, fires it out of Whitaker, and it's just standard practice at the moment with Morgan Whitaker. It's the Morgan Whitaker of Plymouth Argyle, the one that Lazio were chucking £15 million bids in for, because he cuts inside and at the moment you almost just expect him to hit the back of the net. And look, there's been all kinds of conversations about Morgan Whitaker, and rightfully so, but what can you say other than I just hope this form continues, because he is in front of goal. Well, he's all. I think it's 4-4 now, is it? It's ridiculous, ridiculous levels of form, and just an absolute sort of asset to have. I know we always laugh that I called Morgan Whitaker's signing a real statement of intent, and I'm kind of feeling like, okay, maybe I wasn't completely clueless at the time. Now he's still got a long way to go, but yeah, we're really seeing the best version of Morgan Whitaker at the moment.
Yeah, this goal was probably my favourite of the night. I know Gilbert's was really good, but this one, Gilbert nicking the ball in midfield, driving forward, as you say, playing it to Whitaker, and it was literally touch out your feet. And I've actually written down in the notes that this was Somerville-esque of
Mm.
when he scored at the Riverside, when he chopped inside of Rav Vandenberg and bent one in the top corner, but it's inverted, obviously, with Whitaker's left foot. But everything about it's the same. The way it sort of bends outside the post and comes in into the side netting, and also the movement of the goalkeeper as well, where he just sort of is on one knee and looks as it goes right in the corner past him. And yeah, at 3-0, you think, yeah, it's game over. But as you say, the Masham arrows were flying forward, and it did feel like every time we were going to go forward that we were going to have a massive opportunity to score a goal. And this is what we've been hoping for us to be able to create goal scoring opportunities, or just at least get more shots off and test opposition goalkeepers. And it just so happens that on the night we had two real strikes that were deadly with Gilbert and Whitaker from range. Strelix lands fortunately for him. And again, for the fourth, which we'll get onto, it lands a little bit fortunately for McGree. But yeah, he's lucky enough to get that second shot away and toddy it into the back of the net, and you go 4-0 up. But I do think that Hull played into our hands a little bit, especially from 2-0, because they were just open and we were dangerous anyway before then. But as soon as they opened up and tried to attack us a little bit more, it was just relentless and ruthless. And that's how it should be. This is what this division's like when you play teams away from home and they start chasing the game, even though it's early as well. You just have to punish them, rip that game away from them. And everyone I've spoken to that was in the ground on Friday night said that going into the second half, it was almost like you didn't really need to watch the game because the game was done. It was wrapped up at half time, And for me personally, sat in a bar in Brussels, seeing us 4-0 up at half time, I didn't really have to watch all too much of the second half.
Look, I don't want to kind of go overboard, but in the same breath, I want to get across, and anyone listening, anyone watching is going to know they'll have watched the game, of course, but just how impressive it actually was. I honestly can't think of a first half performance, at least over the last couple of years, where I've literally just sat back, the referee's blown for half time, and I've gone, wow, what was that? Seriously, what are we witnessing here? It was incredible, really. And yes, Hull perhaps played their part in it, but I think Boro more than exploited that. And it was a case of second half, there was a little bit of a drop off in intensity. And of course, there was going to be. The pitch was obviously, the conditions were not great. The pitch was going to get heavier, legs were going to get tireder. And at 4-0 up, really, Hull are kind of just thinking, we don't want this to get disgraceful. But Boro also, with the likes of McGree, the likes of Bangura, that haven't had an awful lot of minutes, you kind of, if you don't need to be flying forward at every opportunity, you probably just want to be a little bit more conservative with it. And I think Borough managed the game quite well in the second half. There's obviously the penalty incident. It's sloppy from Hackney, but at the end of the day, it's a blatant dive from Joe Gellart. Solbrin's actually unlucky not to save the penalty, but just, I mean, what more can be said than just a long line, or another in the long line of refereeing absolute horror decisions against Middlesbrough this season. And yeah, the second half, I think it almost gave me time to kind of reflect and just think, if this is Middlesbrough under Kim Elberg after a week, then what kind of football are we going to be playing come 6 months' time, or even a month down the line? It was complete polar opposites to what we've seen so far this season. And Borough have put in some really good performances in different ways, but that just felt like complete and utter domination. And there, I mean, we could literally go around the team. I know we've obviously spoken about Gilbert, but there were so many impressive performances.
Yeah, there was, and obviously, for the most part, the players that were in attacking areas are going to get the praise for that. But just as a team, even though we haven't kept a clean sheet on the night, as you mentioned, it's a dive, and Hull have got one there, which is a little bit unfortunate for us. And yeah, sloppy from Hackney as well in that instance. But and we spoke about last week, Hull being, despite having a really poor defence, that they are also potent at the top of the pitch. And the second most goals scored going into this weekend. And we limited them to nothing, literally nothing in the game. And that needs to be bookmarked down as well for the defence. A makeshift defence again that has gone out there for the second time in a couple of days, and again put in a really solid performance. Good that the game was pretty much won by half time in order to be able to take Bangura off for
Yeah.
well, I think it was about 65 minutes Bangura came off, which was good. Obviously, Edmondson coming back into the fold as well. That's important. Getting bodies back in defensive areas is really, really important going into this month of fixtures with them coming thick and fast. But yeah, the main shout outs are for your attacking players, aren't they, really? Again, Gilbert is very unlucky not to win man of the match on Sky.
Can I just say, how did he not win man of the match? Goal, assist, every other stat that you could possibly think of in terms of an individual performance went in his favour. And don't get me wrong, Hayden Hackney was everywhere. He looked a level above at times, like he does in most Middlesbrough matches that you watch. But like, it was so Sky Sports of them to say man of the match for Hayden Hackney, but he could have joined Ipswich. Like, yeah, okay, we get it. He's kind of our like MVP, if you want to call him that. But given the context surrounding Gilbert and just how long he's been out the team for and playing a different position, a ludicrous decision that he didn't get man of the match. I know he got it on BBC Tees, so
Yeah, but Whitaker 4-4. That again, going back to the goal, that's the best Morgan Whitaker goal that I've seen so far, and that's what people will have expected from him when he came to the club from Plymouth last year. I was going to say maybe it's the green and white kit, but we've been crap before this week, so that's something that I'm going to hold judgment on. But Yeah, McGree as well. Since coming back into the team, he's been really, really good. Really pivotal in us just being more fluid going forward. Chips in with a goal, which is really nice. And yeah, then it goes to your forward two, which is David Strelets, who, as we mentioned, comes back into the team and gets his goal, which is really important. Hopefully, he can build some confidence. And literally, the cherry on the cake would have been a Tommy Conway goal on the night. But I don't think that you can be disappointed in his performance. I thought he was really good actually in the first half, and especially for that fourth goal as well, playing a 1-2 with Hackney in midfield, taking the ball back, playing Bangura in down that left hand side goes to show the importance of having an outlet down the left hand side as well, with Bangura being able to provide width and just pace, getting to the byline, delivering a cross into the box. But yeah, Conway looked better with a partner, as you said, and if you've got a partner up there with him, then I can sort of see why he would be able to drift over to the left hand side, because you've still got Strelets in the box, who is a physical presence in his own right. So yeah, I thought that we were good. Looked really good going forward in that first half, especially. Okay, you sort of expect that you'd put the brakes on in the second half a little bit, but 3 points is 3 points, and it gets you off to a really, really good start ahead of a really busy week.
Yeah, and I think just touching on the second half again there, what kind of impressed me and almost like just made me grin a little bit is the fact that at 4-1 the game was still won. There was, as you say, we limited them to literally nothing other than the penalty, and Kim Hellberg still goes to a back five. Like, we're just going to make double sure here. And I know it's like a one of them where you look, if we stay in the same shape, I don't think Hull are necessarily going to go back and draw level and just out of nowhere get themselves back into the game. But interesting in the sense of perhaps it was a decision made down to the fact that he was bringing Silvera on, and obviously he's more suited to the wing back role. But I thought it was interesting to see that although obviously the kind of idea of Kim Hellberg and the way that he's spoken, everyone is just expecting like high risk, high reward football and playing out from the back and really high lines and centre half stepping in. But actually, Boro, and he did actually speak about in his post match press conference that he was kind of just as pleased with the second half as what he was the first, because we'd limited them to so little. So that's another interesting little kind of tool in his arsenal, because he's recognised that actually we can play in different shapes and transition into, let's be honest, a formation that served us pretty well for the majority of the season. So yeah, look, it was an absolutely phenomenal performance, and let's have it right. I know we've touched on it, but Hull were conceding a lot but scoring a lot, and it's one of those away fixtures where, I think had they won, they would have gone up to third perhaps on the night, obviously before any fixtures were played. Like, I think it's almost been, it sounds ridiculous, but lost in a sense that we haven't kind of gone to a bottom half of the table team and performed that way. We've gone to a team that have give a lot of different teams and a lot of the high end teams in the championship real problems and basically steamrolled them. So, to be honest, it feels now, and it's the best feeling ever as a football fan. I just can't wait for the next game, to be honest. I just want to see us play. Like, I know the players need the rest and stuff, but I just already kind of can't wait for Tuesday, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be honest. I'm quite worried for it. If I'm if I'm totally honest,
Right.
you you have a really good performance, and you just hope that you'll be able to follow it up, and that the players don't get complacent based on a really positive performance in which a lot of the social media reaction is very positive about them, I suppose. And we go to Charlton on Tuesday night, who have been very interesting so far this season. They got off to a pretty good start, and in the last month have begun to falter slightly, partly down to injuries to players. They obviously had a very strange scenario at the weekend. Obviously, the game against Portsmouth being abandoned after passing of a fan in the crowd. So best wishes to the bloke's family for that. But you don't know what their reaction's going to be to that, I suppose. I know that
Yeah.
sounds strange, but yeah, coming off the back of a tragic incident like that, that obviously we haven't been in that situation, but gives you a sort of weird feeling. They technically haven't played a game on Saturday, but they may be mentally fatigued. It's strange, very strange.
It's a difficult one because you obviously, and I think you totally have been, but you want to be respectful, but it also it's not kind of not going to have any impact in the game. Like rightfully so, they're probably gonna want to feel together in tough times and feel like galvanized and really like put on a show of strength really for such a horrible event to happen. It's of course going to have some kind of impact in terms of, as you say, mentally, and obviously just without playing a game, of course, it is on the legs. It's going to change things as well.
Yeah, but sort of moving away from the context outside the game, the way that they are managed by Nathan Jones, you sort of know what you're going to get, don't you? Which is rough and ready, at 'em, in your face, and defensively solid, which they sort of have been up until the last month or so, where they've struggled in certain games. They've lost the last four. The one that really stood out was that Southampton game to me, where they went 4-0 down within the first 25 minutes or so in the game. And part of that was down to them being aggressive in the press against a team that played out from the back on the day and scored a lot of their goals from rotations in attacking positions, and all of a sudden finding the way where they're playing inside their own half of the pitch, and then all of a sudden turning the ball over very quickly and they're in behind. But yeah, they're a side where they've got some decent players that are sort of not the best technically, but you know that they are rough and ready championship players. It'll be a very difficult test. We haven't played there for a while. What does stick out to me is that infamous afternoon on the Sunday afternoon where we got beat against an absolutely
Were they already relegated?
no, but they were dead and buried
Yeah.
really. And yeah, the balls on the pitch, the tennis balls that is, and then shipping goals and Leo patting Karanka's initials on his shirt. Yeah, we were in a really tough spot that day. But I also remember an absolutely stinking 1-0 win that Paddy McNair scored the game before COVID curtailed the season for a while. So fingers crossed we get one of them. Terrible 1-0 win away from home, and that'll be that. But I'll be there on Tuesday night in the away end, first visit to the Valley, so that'll be good. And I can't believe that we've sold nearly 2,500 tickets as well. That is absolutely mental for a following that big to be going to the capital on a Tuesday night. It's absolutely ridiculous for a team, a small little team in the northeast of England. So yeah, that'll be a really, really good day out, and fingers crossed Boro can get the business done once again.
Yeah, absolutely. And from kind of one test where I guess you know what you're going to get to something quite different on Saturday, QPR, very kind of dynamic team, especially certain attackers that we'll obviously discuss. A bit of a strange one with QPR. They've kind of been, I know last season they did well to stay up and things like that, and obviously Cifuentes had a big impact there, but QPR have been the same for a while now in the sense of they've never really threatened the top six, but they've always got one or two really tricky players. And you kind of think there is definitely, I mean, cliche alert, but there is potential for, I don't want to call it a banana skin because, I mean, they're no mugs, but there's definitely, a very realistic world where if you're not at it, the likes of Ilias Chair, the likes of Kone, who I know you were a really big fan of. I think he grabbed a lot of people's attentions with the season that he had last year. And then also Ramon Borrell as well, which is like a forgotten name for Middlesbrough fans who's built his career back up. A really different test to what we'll probably face on Tuesday night, but again, it's certainly not an easy game, but one that obviously the impetus is going to be on Kim Hellberg's Middlesbrough team to really, I guess, put on a show in front of supporters, and it's going to be the first yes, okay, he's had his first game in charge, but I guess the first potential signs of like a we'll have had even more days of Kim Hellberg on the training pitch, going round with his woolly hat and his stopwatch on, directing them, and I don't even know, just creating all kinds of redemption arcs that just shock everyone when the team is announced. I know everyone's joked about it already, but I'm fully expecting Micah Hamilton to just be in goal on Tuesday night or something. So yeah, we'll await that. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a different test, I think, QBR.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how they play, but you'd expect that once more Boro will have more of the ball at home, especially with Hellberg in charge. We'll have more of the ball, but they have a threat on the counter, which Burrell is rapid, quite literally. Yeah, fair play to him for rebuilding his career after a setback here. I think he's played at about four clubs since leaving Borough, and in every season he's hit double figures. He's been on absolute fire wherever he's been, and he's getting into really good positions and scoring a lot of goals for QPR, which is incredible, really. Fair play to him. And as you mentioned, they've got some good players in attacking positions and throughout the squad as well, really. But yeah, let's just hope we can get the business done, keep it rolling into next week, and we can bounce on here after a big weekend for me and you next week before the QPR game. Couple of beers on Baker Street, put pre-match, and then hopefully some celebratory ones after 6 points this week post-match.
Yeah, that would be really, really lovely. That would be quite the week, wouldn't it? And hopefully by another two wins this week, Kim Hellberg will finally be able to nail the three fist pumps because at the moment he's really struggling, and it's the only criticism I've got of him at the moment because he went with one at home to Derby. Britton and Conway then after the game persuade him to go over, and he just gets it a little bit wrong again. And I'm hoping by, let's say we win on Tuesday, win on Saturday, he'll have it nailed by then, and he can have his moment. Not quite Rob Edwards style because he is quite keen to actually get away, and he's almost pushed towards the away end on Friday night. But yeah, I guess that's very different types of characters, I suppose. But yes, as Nathan says, hopefully a big week for Middlesbrough. Hopefully 6 more points, and this Kim Hellberg ball Hellball, as it's being labelled by some, produces even more magic because if it's anything close to what we witnessed on Friday against Hull, then we're in for a treat for the rest of the season and beyond, hopefully. As always, thank you very much for all watching and listening. Just again, a huge thank you for the 1,000 subscribers and just the support in general. Obviously, me and Nathan both massively appreciate it. Nathan, I appreciate you jumping on this evening, even though it's a pleasure to talk about that performance on Friday. And yeah, that is another episode of the Boropolis podcast, and we will see you again next week.